Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Welcome back to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Matt and Garrett are back with you, and we're excited. We got a nice episode today. I think all planned up, ready to go. If you want to learn more about Ninja Selling and what we're all talking about here, go to ninjaselling.com. If you want to go and join a great group of people that are in the Facebook community of Ninja Selling, you can go to the Ninja Selling Podcast community. We've got a lot of great people in there. We're over 16,000 people now, I do believe.
Yep.
Again, super supportive, amazing group. And love everybody's in there and sharing all your ideas and all your feedback. And again, appreciate everybody. Also appreciate the gentleman that I get to share time with here today. Matt Benelli is with us. We're going to jump right into this today. I want to talk a little bit about branding, not cattle. We are going to talk about branding of your business. And what does it really mean? And Matt, the reason I wanted to talk about these today is I watch a lot of people that in trying to find their brand, trying to find their image and the way they want people to see them, they scour the internet, they look at what other people are doing, and they go, I kind of like that. I like what that person's doing. I'm going to do that. And they do it for a little bit, and then they stop doing it because it's not natural to them. It doesn't fit with them. It doesn't fit with their energy. And then we're back to square one again. It wasn't really their thing. Or they take on somebody else's personality and they try to run with that. And that doesn't feel right. And they stop doing it after a short amount of time. Or it's not authentic to the people that know who you are. And been working on this a lot lately. And so I thought I'd bring this up as a topic for us to kick around and talk about.
This is a good one, Garrett. And good morning to you, sir. And good morning or good afternoon or good evening to everyone out there listening. I'd say too, the other thing we're not talking about is like logos and names and colors and stuff, because whenever people think brand, I mean, that's part of a brand. I mean, thus like when you just brought up cow is like your brand is like the identification, right?
It's literally where the whole thing comes from, by the way. Like if you really go back to like, that is what it is that's my brand right there.
Yeah. There you go. You can identify that as me. And not that those things are not important to your business. I mean, they're fun, but ultimately, as we've always talked about, Garrett, like you as the person are the brand, right? And I think when people start looking at others for ideas and inspiration, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do that. It's like the best thing that you can do for your brand, and we're gonna kind of circle this around and put all the details in, but the best thing that you can do for your brand is show up as you, as consistently and as frequently as you possibly can, right? And that relates to what we talked about the other day as frequency of conversations, but you are the brand. So you got to show up first and foremost versus spending all the time of like, I'm going to create this new logo. Like your new logo is not going to get you any business.
It's shiny though.
Yeah, but it's
colorful. Well, so when you said show up consistently, I think a big part of a brand that people can trust is one that doesn't cause confusion for them. And I think when I watch a lot of people do this where they've got this certain image and this certain feel. We all know who that person is. And then you watch them do some crazy thing on social media that doesn't fit their brand. It doesn't fit their image. And every bit of you goes, huh? You're kind of like that dog that's got their head tilted to the side going like, that doesn't add up. Like, like that was interesting. But that little bit of confusion, that little place of disconnect makes it really difficult to refer, makes it really difficult to say, okay, that's where I'm going to put my trust and my energy into, because there's this element of saying something doesn't add up, something doesn't kind of work. I'm not sure what it is, but it just doesn't feel right. I mean, I've watched people that can get away with a lot of stuff with their brand because it's consistent. I know exactly who that person is. I know exactly what they're bringing to the table. I know exactly what they're offering. They don't surprise me. They can be slapstick. They can be crude. They can have very, very, very strong political views. They can put on, and people go, how do they get away with it? It's their brand. They can get away with it. They can own it all day long because people go, yep, that's who they are. Like, that's what they're all about. And those are those things that I watch. You gotta own who you are. But the challenge, Matt, is that and this is where I want to go down this a little bit. Is who the hell are we? Like that we got to start off with that. Like, I think that's the biggest challenge that a lot of people have is we don't really know who we are. we have an idea of who we are. We have a thought in our brain of like, this is who I am. I'm the funny guy. Like, I'm the one who like tells jokes and is like the life of the party. And it's like, but are you? Like, is that really who you are? Is that really the energy of what other people see you as and what you represent to other people? And this is where I think you need to start asking questions. There's a great book, Now Discover Your Strengths. It's an older book. Marcus Buckingham wrote it. There's a Strength Finder 2.0 is actually the little assessment you can take in there. And I'll never forget when I took Strength Finder for the first time. I was young because my kids weren't born. Sarah and I remember where we were sitting when we took it in my parents' house. I had just done the analysis. I had not looked at my results yet. And Sarah walks in and she goes, out of 32 strengths, she goes, you're this one, and this one. I'm like, really? I'm like, come on. I'm like, I don't see myself as that. She goes, I'm just telling you. She goes, these are the ones you are. And sure enough, my dad prints the results out. I sit down with the results. She was dead on. Like, I think it gave 5 top results. She hit on my top 3 is what she picked. And I'm like, how did you know? Like, how did you see that? And she goes, I see you for how you show up every single day, like how you show up in this world. She goes, you have a picture internally of who you think you are. And that's where it really resonated with me, kind of like, and why I feel confident being able to share this with people is like, we see ourselves of the person who we want to be. The other people out here see us for who we truly are. And we're always trying to think to be a little bit different, be something, the person that we look up to, people that we admire. We're always trying to kind of grab in these different elements of the people around us. But there's something about owning who you are. And that's where I think we need to lean into this, Matt, with helping somebody discover who their brand is.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, there's nothing wrong too with that disconnect or that dissonance, really.
No.
Because you can also change your brand, right? You can change who you are if you know who you really want to be, if that's authentically who you really want to be. Because I also see a lot of people who've, for 10, 15, 20 years, they've been this person over here because everybody liked them. They wanted to be all things to all people.
Who's that guy that'll stay up and drink with you all night long? Garrett Frywell. That's the guy. Nowadays, they're like, don't ask Garrett to stay up and drink with you all night long. He'll actually stay up with you. He's just not going to drink with you all night long.
So then like 20 years go by and people are like, well, you know what? Actually, like, I'm letting go and I'm going to be who I really, truly want to be inside. And that will have some people go, huh, that's weird. Like, that's not the Garrett that I know. And it's like, yeah, because the Garrett that wasn't really the Garrett that I am.
Yeah.
So what I like and what we're moving towards here is when you're trying to figure out then the activities, because before we started recording, Garrett, we were talking about agents who will look at what other agents are doing on social media or with marketing, and they'll be like, I should do exactly that. Instead of just using it as, that's interesting. Let me understand that, analyze it, see if that's something I want to put into my programs. They'll just be like, I'm just going to mimic this person over here. And then they start doing it. And people are like, dude, that's like, it doesn't look right. You can tell there's an energy that is not connecting with the action and the way that person is evoking emotion. And this is where, if you really want to understand like what it is, like with you and Sarah there, you're like, how did you know? It's like, well, you can if you want to know what your real estate brand is like, is it trustworthy? Is it consistent? Is it whatever you're hoping it can be? Talk to your clients.
Yeah.
Because how they have felt over the past year, 2, 5, 10, that is what your brand currently is out there. How your clients feel is reflective of your brand. And so if you're like, man, I don't know what that looks like, then go ask. Talk to your trusted clients, talk to your friends, say, hey, what do you think of me when real estate comes up, when you get some of my stuff, when you see my stuff? And you'll start to learn some things. And then you can say, is that the way I want people to feel? Or do I want them to feel differently, so that you can have that? I think part of this, Garrett, I'll share another conversation here on the back end of this, but we tend to get very narrow when we're in our own world, right? Because we're in it, we're doing it. We're like, okay, this is the way that I'm going. And we don't have that space to look outside of ourselves. As an example, and this isn't related to brand, but I was talking to a great agent in New Orleans, Lane Washburn, the other day, and we're going through her listings. and just working out like, okay, what's going on with these and everything. And I said, that's funny. Like all your listings that are on the market right now are all basically investment properties. She's like, I didn't even realize that, because there was like a multifamily here. Like it wasn't all multifamily, there was single family and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, but because we were talking about some more listings that were coming in. I was like, your primary residence is like, you bring those in, they go off the market, and it could be a market thing too, because we were really talking about what's going on in the dynamics in New Orleans. And she's like, wow, yeah, that's going to change this strategy. And it just brought clarity to it. And she's like, how did I not see that? And I said, well, it's because you're in it. You're just in there doing the listings every single day and doing everything you can for those sellers to get these properties sold. By the way, she does a fantastic job with that too. Mm-hmm. And it was just like taking that third party view, coming outside a little bit to look at the collective, right? And so when we're looking at our brand, a lot of time we go, in this one instance, I'm doing this one thing, and that's what my brand looks like. We need to step out and say, well, what is it making everybody feel around me? What are all of my clients feeling collectively? Because that's going to be a better understanding of what your brand currently is and exists as today, so that you can then make changes or just lean into it.
So it's interesting. I'm sitting here kind of going through, is like, well, who's the best person to tell like who you are as a parent? Is it you saying like, well, this is who I am as a parent. This is how I show up for my kids. No, the best people to describe you as a parent are actually your children. Those are the best people to say, this is who my parent is. This is how they treat me. This is how they are there to support me. They're the ones that can actually say that out loud.
The only kids I actually have on my life list, be a great dad. And the only people who can check that off are my kids.
Yep.
Which every time I read that on my life list, like I get emotional, because I'm like, I can never answer that question. I can just always strive, and I'll never, ever know until I have gone beyond this world.
Nate Bowie had it on his list, which was to be the parent that my kids brag about. And there was a letter that came home from his kid was like, when the end last day of school, all the documents, all the papers come home of what your kid did for the year. And there was a letter in there that his child had written, fully bragging about how they had the best dad in the world. And that was, he was like, I got to check that one off. He's like, that one, he goes, I am the parent that my
But
kids
then he had to erase it because it's
about.
got to keep going, right? I mean, it's like.
So I think like, when you talk about your relationship with your spouse, like the only person who can talk about who you really are, like who I am to Sarah, I can't say who I am to Sarah. Sarah can say who I am to her, about what I represent and how I show up for her and what's important to her that I don't even realize who I am. And she doesn't realize who she is to me at a very, very, very fundamental core. If she were to describe it, she would see from her point of view, but from my point of view, I would describe it maybe very different, because there's stuff that she does that she doesn't even realize that she does. That's important to me. When it comes down to our clients, and this is where you kind of like led me into this, Matt, with asking them, I think there's one thing where we get this urge to sit down with our clients and go, tell me all about who you think, I am to you and whatnot. And we make it this big project. The reality is it's like, give me 5 words. Like I'm working on a project right now. I'm doing something for my business. And, we've done a lot of business over the years, Matt. And can you just give me 5 words? Sit on it tonight, sit down with Jen, and what are 5 words of like how you would describe me of who I am to you in your world and our working relationship? That's about as crazy probably as you need to get up front with this, just to kind of get a sense. Because if I did that with you guys, if I reached out to other people, if I did my other clients and brought this all together, if I did it with every single one of my coaching clients, this would be an interesting thing, Matt. We should try this.
We should try this. Guys, heads up.
If I went to every one of my coaching clients and said, hey, in 5 words or maybe less, who am I to you and what do I represent to you? And just kind of see what happens with it. It's an easy project. I could do it while sitting with them. They could text it to me later, or we could do it all kinds of ways. But they're the ones that get to describe me and formulate my brand of who I am as a coach and what I represent to them. And then the cool part is once you learn all this stuff, now you can build off of it. I can say, okay, I am going to now start doing some social media, but I'm going to do it in alignment with what all my people know me as and how they see me. I'm going to put together some marketing, some postcards, things like that. Let's do it in alignment with all these great words and defining words of who I am now. Because now when all that stuff goes out, anybody who sees it, who knows me goes, yep, that matches up with Garrett Fry. That is perfectly in alignment of who we see him as. I think that the opportunity is right there to lean into it, but we got to get ourselves out of the equation.
Yeah, we do. And
or at least internally.
The beauty of this is there's no right answer, right?
No.
Like people are looking for like, what's the right answer when it comes to how I should portray my brand, how I should put myself out there. And I think the reason why we look for inspiration in what others are doing is because we can feel their brand. Like I can go watch Garrett Fry and feel what it's like and be like, I really like the way he's showing up. I like the way his brand feels to me. I would love for other people to feel the way I feel about him, about me. And so I'm just going to start doing Garrett stuff, right? The problem is the delivery is different because it's coming from a different place. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't do the same activities that other people are doing. In fact, I think it's awesome. I love looking at what other people do and breaking down the structure and the operations behind it and the thought process, because I can say, oh, Garrett's doing these activities and deploying his concepts, his brand, his emotions into that. I can do the same thing with my concepts, my emotion, and it's probably going to land really well because that strategy works. And I think that's the key thing when you are looking after you receive the feedback from your people and you're looking at what do you want to do and you're analyzing what other people are doing. Look at the structure and the strategy behind it, not necessarily the content. And we see this all the time on social media. People are like, oh, I'm going to do that same video. I'm going to do that same trend. And it's like, no, look at the structure of what they're doing. Don't look at the content, because maybe the content's cool and, you know, you get a few yucks and some likes and some double taps, but, you know, that's not going to grow your business.
So I'm sitting here thinking about people that we coach, Matt, and I've always paid attention to, and many of you may not realize this, but Matt and I figure out our episodes and podcasts in real time. We don't actually sit around and like well plan out, document step by step what we're going to do.
Wait, Garrett, we have to go back. You missed the line on the teleprompter over here.
Yeah, we got nothing. But what I think is interesting is as I'm sitting here listening to you and we're kind of talking about this and going deeper with it, if I look at like the ninjas out there and the people that come to us that are like, oh, well, I do all the systems. I'm out there talking to people. I'm doing lunches. I'm doing real estate reviews. I'm doing all the stuff. I'm talking to all the people. I'm building all these relationships. I got all this great stuff, but I'm not seeing what maybe other people are seeing. I'm not seeing the results that maybe other people are seeing. It's funny, as I'm sitting here, like in my mind, analyzing the people that I watch that are just like, oh my gosh, bombarded with business. Business is pouring in from all over the place, to the ones that are going, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? And they've been waiting for a long time of when is it going to happen? I actually am sitting here saying it might be a confusing brand, that they might not have a clear picture of where people go, I know how to define that person. I know exactly who they are. They've got lots of great stuff that they're doing with those people, but they don't have a clear picture of really what that person represents at a core. I'm like rolling through my mind here of people that I know that have done the systems that have just gotten overwhelming results. And the clearer that person becomes as they are doing these systems, and the more authentic they are, the more that they bring themselves to the table where people go, that's somebody that I really like who they are and what they stand for. All of a sudden, yeah, 50 people, 10 notes, lunches, real estate reviews. You combine that in with a clear image of who the person is, it's unstoppable. That's where the business takes off. Andrea Toole, we talk about her all the time. If you know Andrea Toole and you're in her world, she's the one that came on with her husband, Guy Toole, did the QR codes here a while back. I've coached Andrea for a long time. She's the one through COVID that her business took off. 1 month into lockdown, she had the biggest month she's ever had. And I look at that and go, okay, what is it? Well, she spent that time loving on her people. That was her whole thing. She goes, Garrett, I am just going to love on my people. And if you know Andrea and you happen to have the good fortune of being friends with her and being in her circle, that's what she does. That is who she is. If somebody had to describe her, she is probably the most motherly, loving, I'm going to put my arms around you and just hug you until you feel better right now type of person. And it's authentic. It's at the core of who she is. And yeah, when she leans into it in her brand and in her marketing and her business, yeah, her business takes off because you all of a sudden have this feeling of like, it's going to be okay. Brad Pond up in Calgary. Brad Pond's an amazing realtor, and he is funnier than any person I have ever been around. He is the top of the list when I look at somebody who has one-liners I feel like he's got a book of one-liners that it's just fun to talk to him because you're like hanging on like, what's he going to say next? Like what's going to come out of his mouth next? At the same point, like caring, he's there for me. I know if I were to call Brad Pond right now and said, dude, I need you, he would probably jump on a plane and fly down here to help me with whatever I had going on. He's got that authenticity of just this real soul of a person that I know I can count on in my world. It's like you look at these brands that we build and like Andrea, Brad Pond, and I could sit here and name so many others that I've worked with over the years that are really crushing in their business. There's a clarity of who they are as a person where I feel the others that I've worked with out there that were really trying, and once again, keep doing the systems, keep pushing through. The more I'm sitting here talking about it, Matt, I'm having a breakthrough of like, interesting. I think that there might be a brand deficiency for a handful of these, or maybe a lot of these people that are trying, doing all the right stuff, but they're not getting the results.
Yeah. I think it's forming that. And we're going to have a guest on in the coming month or two or so who's formulating a really cool thing around identity, right? Because really at the core of this comes down to who you are and how are you bringing that through your business. And I will say, Garrett, a lot of the people I've seen over the years who have done systems but aren't seeing results are people who really aren't focused on building relationships with others, which, by the way, is okay. It's just really hard to do a real estate business when that's not your intention, when that's not part of who you want to be. And like I said, there's no right or wrong answer with this. But if you can understand, but you can change that though. You can change these things. You can change your intention. You can change those things if you choose and you identify it as like, oh wait, this is what needs to be adjusted. Go, Garrett.
So let's talk about, I'm going to call out one of your people here for a second, because I think it's really important, because I think a lot of people look at other people's brands that are successful and they go, yeah, but I could never be that. I could never do this. And I'm thinking about people in my mind that like are not outside the box, showy, flashy, funny. Like they're not these people that you look at and you go like, oh my gosh, like, but they have some special energy about them that I'm never going to be able to find. They're just true to who they are. Dave Pepin's one of those ones for me. I call him the tortoise because he's just this slow and steady, gets things done. He's got a nice sense of humor, not too much, just a little bit of humor, but the guy just makes things happen. Melissa Herdman, we've had Melissa on.
I knew you were going to mention her name. Yeah.
She is the most just authentic to who she is, just does her own thing. And she crushes it, Matt. And you know Melissa way better than I do.
Yeah. I mean, over 100 deals a year. And she is just like this, right? Not up, not down. She has an incredible stability to her. I mean, she was a nurse, so she has that in her. She has a peace personality. Her part of her brand is you can feel she so genuinely cares and that she has an incredible process and she's responsible. And if you're looking to buy a house, I can't imagine the qualities that you would want in a trusted advisor more than those things. Like if I'm like, gosh, somebody who really cares about my success and is responsible and has a great process, like, oh, sign me up all day long for that person. And that's who she is.
So this brand, Matt, comes back to the confidence of somebody being able to refer. If I take someone like Melissa Herdman, like Melissa is somebody that I could easily go to anybody that I know and go, oh, Melissa's your person. She is great. And I can describe her to a T clearly to somebody saying, this is what you can expect from Melissa. I know her brand extremely well of who she is. even though I've only been in Melissa's presence, physically presence, like 3 times tops, maybe.
And I will say, as someone who has a brand like hers, like she's one of those brands where you could literally refer anybody to her. Like where we all have people that we know where we're like, well, I would like to refer you to this person, but they might clash a little bit, right? Or I like you to refer you to this person, but even though both people are fantastic, right?
You don't have to give warnings. Like there are people that have strong brands and I'm like, okay, they're amazing, but like these are things that I'm just going to give you a heads up on so you're not caught off guard.
This restaurant's amazing, best food ever, but the service kind of sucks. Right.
Yeah. There's no like hook on it of like, but don't order the cheeseburger. Like, don't.
Yeah. Don't get that. Whereas, yeah, like Melissa has one of those brands. Now, not everybody's going to have that brand, right? Not everybody's going to have the brand like Melissa has. But if you're trying to be a Melissa or a Dave Pepin or an Andrea or a Brad, and that's not who you are, you're going to then not attract the people that you could be attracting if you were who you are.
And that's what's so cool. I think even with having the warnings about your brand, like that is okay because you are true to who you are. You're going to attract in the people that fit the best with you. Where, Melissa being that type of nurse background, that energy of like, look, I'm here to help. I'm here to help anybody that walks in this hospital. I am not trying to say I'm only helping a certain amount of these certain people. Like that energy, I think, comes from taking care of everybody. Where there's, again, some of the brands out there push some people away. And I think it's, again, this all comes down to being authentic because when I can clearly define somebody's brand, even with the warnings, that's still their brand. It's very clear. It's not confusing. It's not anything that I'm going like, and I hope they show up this way because I've seen them show up this way sometimes, but it's not always. Like I can at least define it and say, this is what you can expect. This is exactly what's going to be. The ones, this goes back to where I find the ones that struggle, as I'm sitting here thinking this out even more, I don't think I have a clear brand I can describe of them. I don't think I have a clear picture of exactly what they stand for, exactly who they are, how they show up. Like that's a real, I'm having a breakthrough, Matt.
I love this.
Why am I having a breakthrough on this right now after 20 years? This is great therapy, man. Have you thought about like going into like, I just needed someone to talk to.
This is amazing. Just all I had to do is just kind of, hey, I have this coaching business, Garrett. I help realtors grow. If you actually might know the owner of it. So hopefully all of you are having a similar breakthrough on this. And I will say like, this isn't overly complicated, even though it sounds complicated.
No.
The exercise that Garrett, you just went through of like, just ask your people, like, what are 4 or 5 words that come to your mind as it relates to me and real estate and the service that I provide, right? Start to understand. And you can even match that up with write down the 5 words that you think people feel and would say and match those up to see if there's a connection. If a lot of your words overlap, you're good. Just keep rocking with what you're doing, right? But if there's not a lot of overlap, if you're like, why isn't business coming here? There's either a brand, identity, challenge, or you're just not doing the work. If you're doing the work or not. That's one thing where like you could just literally look at a piece of paper like, well, did I do the things or did I not? So if the business still isn't coming, then maybe we need to explore that brand identity a little bit and just tune it up. And then you'll be rocking and rolling.
And I think it's important when you go through this, when you're looking for your words, when you're looking for the information from your people, make sure you're picking people. If you're building a working brand, make sure you're picking people that have a working relationship with you to define that brand. If I were to go to my daughter and say, give me 5 words of who I am.
Good point.
She's going to give me words that are not necessarily are how my working people see me when I'm in my working roles. My son might give me different words than my daughter would give me because I show up maybe as a dad a little bit differently to them. Where my son is looking like for fundamentals, like how do we fix stuff? How do we work on stuff? And my daughter's looking for, I just need someone to listen to me right now. I don't need you to solve problems for me. Like maybe I've had these conversations with them before. But I think as you go and you want to gather these words, I would specifically go and ask people that I've done business with, if I'm working on building my business brand, people that have actually had to count on me in a working relationship to get things done, to take care of stuff, to make sure that we're getting to the finish line, helping them get there. Those would be the ones I'd be looking for these words. And I was thinking about it because I was going like, well, who am I going to ask? Because I think I'm going to do this activity for myself. And I started going through my friends in town here that have never had a working relationship with me. They're the people that
they're going to say something different.
They're going to give me a very different idea of how they see me and how they take my energy compared to even the people that I race with. Because I have a different energy that comes out of me when we are at the racetrack and I have a team and we're trying to win something and there's a goal in mind there. I turn into a little bit of a different person because I have an oddly competitive side that comes out of me in those moments that I understand and accept.
So watch out if you're on the track.
Dude, I think there's a weird side. It's like the Tasmanian devil comes out of me. I don't know what it is.
Oh, man.
But then there's my, and even my coaches, if I were to talk to them and how do I represent, what do I represent to them if they were to give me words is different than what my coaches are going to say, my coaching clients are going to say. So I think just be aware of that as you're gathering this information and you want to put this together. Don't go around necessarily to all your best friends that you hang out with and have drinks with on the weekend to figure out what your brand is maybe for your business. Find out the people that have actually worked with you. Go there first.
Yeah. Totally agree with that.
The others are important too, though.
Oh, they absolutely are. And that'll be another episode of merging those two together because that's how you have harmonization in your life. But I really like that exercise and we'll have something for you guys in about, I don't know, a little over a month or so, depending on whether this podcast is released. We're working out with this guest who's going to come on and share some awesome stuff. But guys, thank you for tuning in. Would love to hear how this exercise works. If you do this exercise in the group, we always post the episodes in the Facebook group. Go over to Facebook, search for the Ninja Selling Podcast. We post the episodes in there. Would love to hear how this works out for you. You could drop it in the comments of this episode and collaborate on this because, the more you talk about it, the more you get insight. I was just thinking the other day, I'm like, the more you ask questions about your own business, the more you're going to learn, which is going to be great because then you can put better things into action. So thank you, Garrett, for bringing this topic up. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We love you all very much. Have an incredible day, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you, everybody.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about ninja selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.